On December 10, 2024, Reddit user SuperHeatran2 shared a disturbing discovery they made on the RBI2 subreddit. The post read, "Terrifying film found at a thrift store. Found this film photo at my thrift store inside an old Kodak carousel box." Alongside this, they posted a picture of the eerie film strip they found. Now, I'm gonna have to blur the image as it's a bit too graphic, but it basically shows what looks like an undressed human body lying on the floor between a bed and a wall. The floor is also covered in blood, with heavy splatters staining both the bed and the walls. It looks like a picture someone took right after committing an absolutely horrific crime. Most importantly, it looks disturbingly real, far too authentic to be dismissed as part of a horror-themed art project. About 30 minutes later, the OP came back with an update describing their actions after finding the film, which only made it seem even more legit, reading, "Hello everyone, sorry I'm on my phone, so I'm leaving an update as a comment. Here's what I did. When I saw the photo, I was curious and pointed into a contrast area to look at it, and my body jolted because I was shocked. I didn't buy the Kodak carousel and just took the photo and went outside. I went to another store next door and called the non-emergency line describing what I saw and that I felt like it was a genuine photo. They told me they're sending an officer when available. She said she didn't have an ETA. The dispatch person told me if I can wait at the thrift store, and I said yes. I'm waiting in my car as of now." About an hour after that, the OP posted a second update, this time describing their interaction with the police, stating, "The officer arrived a bit after I posted the update. Him and I looked at the photo, and basically he was just looking thoroughly and asked me where I found it, and I just described where I found it. Then him and I walked to the thrift store and showed him the exact box I found it in. He sent a photo of the film to a coworker and spoke to him on it. He then took down my information and told me that he's going to take it to the people who can properly process the image to investigate it. I basically told him how I just thought the carousel was cool, so I opened it to see the condition, and I saw the photo and thought someone left a family photo, so I checked, and it was definitely not a family photo. I also gave him the time I found it, which was a minute before I took the photo. He then said if there's any more questions or things, he'll reach out to me, but he says it's unlikely since I just found the photo and don't know much about it. He then said thanks, that's all he needed, and then took the box and photo and then began to walk to the thrift store worker to ask questions, but I left. That's all I have so far, and if I'm being honest, I don't know if I'll get any updates from them, since I'm sure it's hard to go off of a film photo, and since I just stumbled upon it from chance and have no other information other than what I said. Now, usually when something like this is posted on the internet, there's a lot of skepticism surrounding its origin. The first thought most people have is that whoever made the post faked either the whole thing or parts of it for online attention. But in this particular instance, the vast majority of people were convinced that the OP was telling the truth, simply because the picture looked a bit too real. They urged the OP to post more information about where and how they found the film, which they complied with by posting pictures of the box the film was in. One person asked for more details. "Was that the only image in the carousel?" "Yes, it's the only image, but it wasn't in the carousel, it was in the middle of the carousel." An hour later, SuperHeatran also posted a clear picture of the film by using their Apple Watch as a bright backlight. This only confirmed everyone's suspicion that the picture exposed onto the film was indeed real, with one user writing, "This doesn't seem fake. If it is, it's really well done." They further added, "I feel like if it was fake, it would be either more or less gruesome. But there's something about the positioning of the body, the fact that it isn't a more attractive body type, read thin and beautiful for better optics, and the natural pattern of blood on the wall that indicates the victim fought and didn't die immediately. Visible hand/finger marks on the wall in addition to smudges and splatter. Just doesn't seem like it was some type of dark art project. Obviously, I can't say for sure, but I watch a ton of true crime and fiction crime shows. The difference in brutality and realism of the crime scene photos are easy to distinguish. But if this film strip was real, what was its origin? The carousel containing this film appeared to be from the mid-1980s. In another thread, the OP also mentioned that the film was sticky, stating, "I didn't smell it, but yes, it was sticky, as in it would stay on my index finger after pressing on it." This hinted at the old age of the film, as they tend to become sticky when left in a room temperature box for over a decade. So the possibility of it being from the 1980s and early 1990s is certainly high. As for the disturbing contents of the film, there are countless possible explanations, each just as plausible as the next. Some users suggest that maybe it was a trophy photo taken by a serial killer, which begs the question, how could such a thing end up at a thrift store of all places? One user tried to explain this with a personal anecdote, writing, "My mother lives in a seniors community in California and there's a Savers just around the corner. When the old people die, a lot of the time their kids pick up what they cherish and dump all the rest of their parents' stuff at the Savers. Could be the person who donated this didn't know what was on it." That said, a more reasonable theory I came across stated that the film likely belonged to a criminology teacher, reading, "I think a likely possibility is that the carousel belonged to someone who taught classes relating to crime scenes. The photo was accidentally left in the box because it had come away from its slide frame. Only suggesting this because I once found something similar from a house clearance and I knew the person taught some criminology classes." Another distinct possibility is that the carousel originally belonged to law enforcement. This film could have been evidence relating to an already solved case, and someone simply failed to make sure the carousel was empty before donating it to a thrift store. Whatever the case may be, it's unlikely we'll learn the truth anytime soon. It's been months since the original post, and the OP hasn't made any updates. It's possible they'll get a call from the police at some point with an update, but at least until then, the film strip depicting what appears to be a horrific crime remains an unsolved mystery. On September 3rd, 2024, a Reddit user shared the unsettling sight they came across on a hike in Austin, Texas, reading, "Stone crosses in South Austin. Anyone know what's up? Went hiking with my sister and dog today at the Westgate and Stastny area, and we kept seeing piles of rocks made into crosses. We stopped counting at 11. Does anyone know what these are? One of them had animal bones mixed into it. Weird voodoo or just memorials?" Alongside this, they also shared several images of the many stone crosses they described in their post. The OP also provided some more context in later comments, stating, "We didn't see anyone around, but there was a ton of trash back in the woods. It was creepy though, with cross after cross, felt off. Definitely going to find new paths to walk the dog because I don't want to meet their architect." Usually, discoveries like these will lead to some interesting but predictable answers. For all we know, these could have been part of a ritual site of sorts from centuries ago, or something along those lines. However, that wasn't the case here, as some of these crosses contained modern materials like concrete and painted metal fence posts. In other words, these were put together a lot more recently, which begged the question, who made these and why? To this, one user gave a very urgent and concerning response. "Call APD/311 and tell them you think Rami Zowaida is back in the neighborhood. He escaped custody from a mental institution in June. I don't know whether he is still wanted. Good luck getting APD to do something. Google him and talk to your neighbors." Put simply, these crosses were the work of an unstable homeless man named Rami Zowaida.
"I'm not entering your camp."
In the last few years, South Austin residents say they have spotted Rami Zowaida building sculptures, taking a sledgehammer to city property, screaming at all hours of the night, and cutting down trees in the greenbelt using a chainsaw and machete.
From what I could find online, Rami is originally from New York and struggles with severe mental health issues and violent tendencies. As one local resident described her account with him, stating, "He's very profane. He's beginning to target me and my little dog, talking about murder, calling me obscene names." Reports of Rami disturbing locals go back years. Like this similar Reddit post from another Austin resident from December of 2023, reading, "These weird rock cross formations appeared seemingly overnight in the little green space between Westgate and Menchaca. Anyone have any idea what they may be for?" While looking through the wooded area surrounding these strange sightings, I even found what looked like Rami's base of operations. A quick search on the guy also shows that Rami's been doing this for quite a while. He'd been arrested 6 times in less than a year, however all of the charges were either dropped or dismissed. He was also ordered to undergo temporary inpatient mental health services back in April of 2024, but he managed to escape from the hospital within a few weeks of his detainment to continue his work, the same work that was later described by the OP in early September. As their post picked up steam, more and more locals joined the conversation to share what they knew about Rami as well. As it turns out, Rami wasn't just a misunderstood artist who should have been left alone. He was highly unstable and posed a great threat to the people in that neighborhood. I live on Westgate near Stastny, about 1 block from where the crosses are. I just recently found a smart key outside of my home, a verified lockpicking tool in the back patio area, and am truly concerned he tried to break in but gave up very recently. Last year around this time, he would specifically target my home and steal water from my downstairs faucet, carrying large gallon containers of the stolen water on his bicycle. I filed a 311 report and have reached out to the APD district representative and left a message, but 311 told me I should keep calling. They have 14 days to respond to my concerns. Super great feeling. I am feeling very, very uneasy and scared. I believe I saw him once. What happened is that I saw a man outside my apartment building casually stroll by, bash someone's windshield in with a sledgehammer, and casually continued strolling. Zoeda had a sledgehammer he used to break decorative white boulders that were on the side of the street. It appears he has now made crosses onto the broken rocks. He also had a chainsaw and cut down numerous trees. He said the devil was in the trees. He did this day and night for months on end. Not only did he destroy property, he threatened to murder people out for walks. Oh, and people said he has sawed stray cats in half. Now, from what I could find, he's never been charged with any form of animal cruelty. That said, the OP did find animal bones in a few of the crosses he built, so it's possible there's some truth to the statement. As for his motive, a journalist who spoke with him reported that he claimed to be, quote, taking out Satanism. Apparently, he believes that these woods are the worshipping grounds for a group of Satanists, making these crosses his way of purifying the landscape. Regardless of his reasoning, it's clear that he's mentally unwell and is a danger to the public. There are already rumors of him attacking stray animals, and it's not a stretch to imagine him turning his chainsaw on a person if he sees it as a necessary sacrifice to fulfill his goal. Thankfully, something of that nature hasn't happened as of yet. He was arrested again in late September and was even sentenced to 240 days in jail. But since he had already spent a long time in confinement in the past couple of years, his sentence was deemed served and he was released. At the time of writing, Rami is still out there and posing a threat to the people around him. On the 14th of December 2017, Reddit user She's Such a Riot made a post about a bizarre and unnerving experience they had many years ago. The post read, "Humans walking in hamster wheels. When I was about 16, I came home from hanging with friends. I was a huge cartoon fan, still am, grabbed some food and settled into my bed to watch Nickelodeon. I knew it was Nick because it was the last channel I watched that day and no one shared the TV in my room. So I turn it on to see this creepy black, white, and gray scene where hundreds of nude humans are walking in a line over these hills in the background towards these giant hamster wheels in the front of the scene. They're walking towards the wheels as a few people are already in the wheels, walking endlessly and mindlessly in this robotic, zombie-like state. The people walking toward the wheels are also in this similar state, as if there's no life within their eyes. They're just cold/robotic. There's this cold, wind-like noise whistling in the background. It looks real, not animated, and as I watch in awe at this dark scene, I come to a similar conclusion and ask myself why Nick would have something so live and non-action, really, as the entire scene keeps just repeating itself of more humans walking towards and in these hamster wheels. I start thinking maybe it's just some weird short and it's kinda cool in a dark sort of way, but minutes go by and it starts to get dull watching this same scene not doing anything else. So I quickly change the channel to something else, when in a split second I realize, wait a minute, what did I just watch? And change it back immediately only to find SpongeBob mid-episode. You could tell SpongeBob was on for a while, not like the weird short played and it just came on. Freaked out, I keep going back to surrounding channels thinking maybe it wasn't Nick, but nothing has the hamster wheel video on. It felt really dark, almost evil when I watched it, and though seemed somewhat interesting at first, it started to feel really wrong after a while. So that, lined with the repetitiveness of it all, made me change it. But now that I realized it wasn't on any channel in the first place, I was really creeped out, and still am to this day. I don't know if this was necessarily a shift in reality or something sinister, paranormal, or really a short, etc., but I have never been able to research and come up with anything about its existence since, including researching that day online in 2005 when it happened. I'd like to believe it was some dumb film project, but I can't find any evidence of it ever existing in reality as we know it. If anybody knows what I saw, I'd love to be debunked. Still somewhat wary of my TV till this day. I should mention that this was posted on the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit, a community which gives credibility to theories like shifts and glitches in reality. But that said, if this particular story really did happen, it raises some very concerning real-life possibilities that are worth considering. The idea of randomly coming across something so deeply unsettling on TV only for it to vanish without a trace is terrifying on its own. However, what makes this particular case even more disturbing is just how many people remember seeing something similar in the past. I'm pretty sure I saw it too. I think I saw part of this. I actually think I remember this. I know I saw it too. Though, if it was real, how exactly did it happen? Some people try to explain the weird occurrence with a more mundane answer, suggesting that it might have been an ad that was played at the wrong time, with one person writing, "Sounds like a commercial that glitched through the network. It does happen, but it's pretty rare. May have been an ad for an antidepressant or a PSA, probably wasn't a broadcast intrusion." However, this theory falls apart quickly when you consider that this happened on Nickelodeon, a kids channel. Any ad or PSA featuring seemingly nude people would have never been allowed on that channel in the first place. Another just as likely theory is that this was the result of a TV hijacking, similar to the infamous Max Headroom incident that happened during a Doctor Who broadcast back in 1987.
I'll get you a hot drink, miss.
Some dry
Kids channels were frequent targets for these signal intrusions. More importantly, many of these hijackers chose to broadcast explicit or unsettling content after gaining access, similar to what the OP described in their post. As for why there's no information about this hijacking online, a comment from a deleted user shed some light on it, stating, "I'm not sure what happened considering the year, but back in the day, television frequencies often got hacked. It's called a broadcast signal intrusion. Max Headroom is often the case most referred to. However, it is possible in my mind that this was either swept under the rug or not reported, considering it was on a kids channel in a period that was still technically before the popularity of social media. However, even if we assume it was a TV hijacking, that still leaves us with a massive unanswered question. What exactly did the OP see on their screen that day? Was it from a movie or a TV show or something else entirely? One user posted a link to Meta Chaos, an animated horror short film that shares some similarities to what the OP described in their post. Unfortunately, this likely isn't what the OP saw that day. This short doesn't feature anything even remotely close to walking in a line or running on a hamster wheel. Also, it was released in 2010, a full 5 years after the supposed hijacking. A more recent comment suggested something far more plausible, reading, "Okay, I know this is a dead topic, and I don't know if someone already said this before, but do you think it maybe could have been related to anything of those old MacBook Lemmings commercials? I just saw a compilation of a few and it reminded me of this." These ads depicted a group of zombie-like people marching single file up a mountain, blindly following the crowd, how doing so could lead to their doom, and how Apple's upcoming Macintosh can save them from this fate.
On January 23rd, Apple Computer will announce the Macintosh Office. You can look into it, or you can go on with business as usual.
More importantly, these ads were also released way back in 1985, so there's no issue with their timeline. And while they don't perfectly match the original description, like the people are clothed and there are no hamster wheels, that simply could be a case of the OP misremembering details from 12 years ago. They could have also mixed in the memory of what they saw on TV with a similar dream they had the same day. Unfortunately, despite dozens of people looking for the answer, this Reddit thread remains a mystery to this day. The OP's account was also suspended sometime after making this post, so it's unlikely we'll ever get an update. In April 2020, an anonymous user turned to the relationship advice subreddit seeking help with a deeply unsettling situation he found himself in. He wrote, "I think my girlfriend and her sister are poisoning me. I'm an 18-year-old guy. I moved out of my parents' house as soon as I turned 18 because, well, let's just say they and I get on much better if we're not under the same roof. My girlfriend, 19, and her sister, 24, already had a flat together, so I moved in with them, and that's how it's been for the past 9 months. Generally, things are fine. I love my girlfriend, and I like her sister. Our living arrangement/setup is really no different from any other couple living with a flatmate situation, perfectly normal. Now, both of the girls love to cook. Their dad is a Michelin star chef, so food and cooking was always a big part of their lives. I'm fine with this. I'm not a bad cook by any means, but these two are amazing at it. Plus, we have a fair trade. They do all the cooking, I do all the cleaning. I find cleaning very cathartic, so it's usually a sweet deal. I get really bomb meals cooked for me in exchange for doing something I enjoy. Things have changed recently. It started about 3 weeks ago when the whole quarantine thing got really ramped up. I started getting sick. At first I worried I caught the virus, but it just wasn't the virus. No respiratory symptoms, no cold, nothing like that. Just stomach cramps and horrible vomiting. I figured at first I'd caught some other bug, but then it came back, again and again. At least 1 to 2 times a week for a couple of days at a time, I was getting these episodes of stomach pain like you wouldn't believe, and spewing my guts up. I couldn't figure out what was up, until I spoke to a friend about it and she asked if it was maybe something I'd been eating. Now, I don't have any real food allergies. I'm a bit dodgy with dairy, but not on a feel like I'm on death's door and vomit all the fluids out of my body level. More just bit of discomfort and spend ages on the loo type of stuff. Still, I mentioned it to my girlfriend and asked if she'd changed anything about how she was cooking recently. She got really weird, defensive, as to what I was accusing her of. I said I wasn't accusing her of anything, I just think I might have developed an allergy to something and want to know what it could be to. She told me I'm just being paranoid and I just have a bug. I dropped it because she seemed really annoyed. Since then, I've noticed some weird stuff which really is making me paranoid. Like, they shout at me to get out if I go in the kitchen while they're cooking. I've offered to both of them on several occasions, hey, I'll cook tonight, but they vehemently turn me down and seem almost offended I'd offer. They both keep giving me these glances at mealtimes, like they're waiting to see how I react. If I say I don't feel good or don't want to eat, both of them take it as a personal attack on their cooking, and if it's my girlfriend, she'll cry until I cave and eat it. There have been times when one or both of them seem to know I was about to get sick after eating. They text each other when they're in the same room if I'm there. I think they think I haven't caught on to that, but it's obvious honestly. Neither of them is particularly sympathetic when I do get sick. I don't know, maybe I'm being paranoid, maybe quarantine is getting to me. But I'm really convinced they're doing something to my food to make me ill. It's the only explanation I can come up with. Thing is, I don't know what to do. If I confront them and I'm wrong, I'm a jerk for even thinking it. If I confront them and I'm right, things could escalate badly. I'd really appreciate any advice or words of wisdom here. Thank you in advance. One of the top comments on this post gave the OP some solid advice for finding the truth, but this only made the situation seem even more suspicious. Switch plates with one of them either with or without their knowledge. If they know you want to switch plates, they will refuse, which would be a red flag. Or if you switch without their knowledge, you would be able to see how the plate originally meant for you affects them. They're always super particular about making sure I get the right plate. I hadn't thought about asking to switch. But the thing is, this could have gone either way. As one commenter pointed out, "I've seen this before. It was a post on here. A person's husband was a cook and started using some kind of spice. He didn't believe it was making her sick. She got tested and was in fact allergic. He confessed and they reconciled." In another post, a fellow was using garden slugs in his girlfriend's meals on purpose. You need to consider both possibilities. The second half of this comment was referring to a now deleted post from March of 2020. In it, a woman sought advice on what to do after making the horrifying discovery that her partner of 4 years was putting garden slugs in her food. In addition to being incredibly gross, this was also highly dangerous as these slugs can contain brain-eating parasites. Put simply, there was no obvious answer to the OP's predicament. On the one hand, it's entirely possible that the OP was just being paranoid. This could have also been an early sign of a mental health issue, where he's seeing patterns and behaviors that don't actually exist. A few people also suggested a gastrointestinal test to see if there was something wrong with his stomach. This is because conditions like Crohn's disease can cause persistent digestive issues regardless of diet. It could have also been a combination of the two, where his real symptoms were making the paranoia worse. But as this one user mentioned, a potential poisoning wasn't entirely off the table. If we assume that the OP's observations are completely accurate, there's a good chance that he was getting poisoned. What makes this even more sinister, however, is that his girlfriend and her sister were disturbingly deliberate in their actions. They didn't lace his food with a stronger poison, because then the OP might go to a doctor who would likely find the toxic substance in his system. Instead, they were poisoning him slowly, likely in the hopes of keeping him oblivious until his eventual death. Many people took this possibility seriously, with some even brainstorming ways for the OP to protect himself without jeopardizing his relationship if it all turned out to be a misunderstanding. I don't have a magic bullet answer for you, but I can tell you what to do. I would play dumb, announce that I would be cooking for myself from now on because it would not be fair to force my new, as of yet unidentified allergy on them and their amazing cooking. From there, I would be careful about my food. If I open it, it gets used all the way, nothing left open. All of this would serve twofold. First, if you still get sick every other week while having full control of your own food, you know something bigger is going on here medically and the paranoia toward them is unjustified. If it works, you might just need to work on getting the hell out. All this being said, the most important part of this is to play dumb and stand your ground, claiming it is all for their happiness and convenience. Unfortunately, we'll never know if he followed the advice from this thread, what ultimately happened, or even if he's still alive. He made this post with an anonymous throwaway account, which was also suspended shortly after this thread's creation. From what I could find, there haven't been any further updates on this post from any other accounts either. Maybe one day the OP will return with all the answers, but at least until then, we can only hope that he's alive and well.